Good evening. This presentation is about the social worker's role in addressing structural housing crisis, strategies and empowerment for effective community support. Stakeholder assistance, social workers' engagement and support. As a social worker, I'll serve as an intermediary and advocate for diverse stakeholders impacted by housing instability, needs assessment of vulnerable populations, including families facing eviction, individuals experiencing homelessness, and marginalized groups disproportionately affected by housing shortages. Ensure stakeholders are informed, supported, and actively involved in the resolution process, fostering trust, reducing anxiety, and encouraging collective problem solving. Structural issues and conflicts in housing crisis. Conflicts during housing crisis often stem from systemic structural issues such as economic inequalities, such as disparities in income and wealth, which limit access to affordable housing, and exacerbates competition among stakeholders. Regulatory barriers such as zoning laws, rent controls, and bureaucratic inefficiencies, which can create bottlenecks and perpetuate exclusion. Resource scarcity such as limited housing stock and inadequate funding for social services, which intensify tensions between groups vying for support. Discrimination and social exclusion, such as structural racism, ageism, ableism, which manifest in housing policies and practices, fueling conflict and distrust. These issues are often interrelated, compounding the complexity of the crisis and challenging the social worker's ability to mediate effectively. Negotiation in conflict resolutions, the social work approach. As a social worker, I would approach this by negotiating. And effective negotiation strategies include interest-based negotiation, focusing on stakeholders' underlying interests rather than fixed positions, enables creative solutions and mutual gains. Active listening and empathy. This demonstrates an understanding of each party's concepts, which helps de-escalate conflict and builds rapport. Mediation, facilitating structured dialogue between conflicting parties, enables consensus building and reduces adversarial interactions. Transparency and fairness, ensuring that negotiation processes are open and equitable fosters stakeholder buy-in and trust. Based on my training in communication, ethics, and cultural competence to navigate these negotiations, it is my goal to seek outcomes that respect the dignity and rights of all involved as prescribed in the NASW Code of Ethics. Problem-solving steps in addressing housing crisis. Assessment. To resolve a housing crisis, as a social worker, I will typically follow a structured problem-solving procedure. Assessment. Identify the scope and causes of the housing crisis through data collection, stakeholder interviews, and needs analysis. Stakeholder mapping. Determine key parties involved, their interests, and potential sources of conflict or collaboration. Resource identification. Catalog available resources, including government programs, nonprofit services, and community assets. Strategic planning. Develop an action plan with clear goals, timelines, and responsibilities, ensuring stakeholder participation. Implementation. Coordinate services, facilitate negotiations, and monitor progress toward resolution. Evaluation and feedback. Assess outcomes, solicit stakeholder feedback, and adjust strategies as needed for sustainable impact. Collaboration with organizations and communities. As a social worker, I would collaborate with a variety of organizations, government agencies, housing authorities, nonprofits, advocacy groups, and faith-based organizations to maximize resources and expertise. Strategies for effective partnership would include coalition building, forming alliances with organizations sharing common goals, amplifies advocacy efforts and resource mobilization. Community engagement, involving residents in decision-making processes, empowers them to voice concerns and shape solutions. Capacity building, training community members and organizations in leadership, advocacy, and negotiation skills strengthens collective action. Information sharing, transparent communication ensures stakeholders are informed and able to participate meaningfully. Balancing advocate and empowerment roles. As a social worker, I must balance my role as advocate for systemic change with my commitment to empowering individuals and communities. This balance is achieved by participatory advocacy, ensuring that advocacy efforts are informed by and responsive to the needs and voices of those affected. Strengths-based practice, recognizing and building upon existing capacities within communities fosters empowerment and long-term sustainability. Ethical reflection, regularly examining the impact of interventions to avoid paternalism and promote autonomy. Collaborative leadership, facilitating shared leadership among stakeholders, supports both advancement and empowerment goals. Maintaining these balances enables me to avoid imposing solutions and instead facilitate processes where communities advance their own interests. The rationale for these approaches and strategies. The approaches outlined are grounded in core social work values, respect for human dignity, social justice, and the promotion of self-determination. Addressing housing crisis requires both systemic advocacy and individual empowerment to ensure equitability, sustainable outcomes. Collaborative, transparent, and participatory methods foster trust, build capacity, and ensure that solutions are tailored to unique needs of each community. Negotiation and conflict resolution techniques are essential for bridging divides and achieving consensus, while structured problem solving ensures accountability and effectiveness. These strategies advance the profession's mission to enhance well-being and promote social change.